Ladies and gentlemen, we are back inside Watcher of Realms after a long time not recording any content in this game. I just wanted to brag real quick. Free-to-play player, ranked #1 inside the Arrival of Heroes event or tournament, so that was pretty cool. I got myself a lot of fragments for the worst fragment summon we've ever had so far, and then of course obviously a legendary skill crystal and an ancient summoning crystal times 2, so that's pretty cool. But that being said, today what we're doing is something that I've never actually done before, which is a gear forging video. So I have 4,700 of the Sanguine Fabric, and I have 4,600 of the Smoldering Scales. So we're going to be going through this. We're going to be forging all this up, seeing what we can get. Now, with these gear forges, I have not personally really gotten any sort of like crazy gear from it. You know, there's a lot of like Wicked Vengeance and whatnot that I use on my account that's pretty decent, but you know, I could always use better gear, essentially. So, that being said, getting some of the exclusives would be pretty sweet as well. From the Smoldering Scales, we do have a decent number of exclusives here as well, though they are obviously faction-specific for the most part. Like, there's not as many hero-specific exclusives. But let's go ahead. Let's start forging here and see what we can come up with. Now, we did just have the 2-year anniversary that's going on right now inside Watcher of Realms. And then with that, we do actually have some new ways to manipulate gear as well, so that's pretty cool. Additionally, I have never actually used this function with audio before, so anytime I've forged gear in the past, it's always been basically on mobile, and I'm usually either at work or playing another game or something like that, so I've never actually been able to hear it, so it's pretty cool now that I can. The audio effects are pretty good. We got a unidentified fine weapon here, so that is pretty cool. We also got a exclusive here, Constance breastplate, which has some very good stats on it, and then we did also get Cetrum's weapon with some pretty good stats as well, so definitely a decent roll there. We're obviously going to be trying to roll that unidentified weapon up as well and seeing what we can get from it. Let's keep going here, though. We do actually have a Ancient as well from the Astral Guardian, so I'm going to go ahead and roll this one up and just see what kind of stats we can get on it. HP bonus, low roll on defense bonus, and then flat stat defense didn't roll too high either. Any Ancients I might get, I'm going to go ahead and roll up right away, just to see if they're worth keeping. Astral Guardian, I actually don't have a whole lot, so I'm definitely going to be keeping any of the pieces that have good stats. If you're curious about my sell files, I have not made an actual video on that yet, but as of right now, at least the sell files that I use are actually going to be the Fastidious sell files, so nothing too crazy going on there. You can go to his latest sell file video. I think I'm using the Endgame sell files, if I'm not mistaken. I have a lot of content that I need to progress still, but my gear is pretty good inside this game. I will say my gear is pretty decent. I know I've kind of talked about this a lot inside my raid videos and whatnot, but the mistake I made in raid is I spent gems and stuff like that early on going for champions, where I should have been spending it to get, you know, energy pots and go for gear, masteries, those sorts of things, which I didn't do though, so that really set my account back. Like, hey, I had some decent champions, but I had no gear for them. I didn't have masteries on anyone, and I just didn't have teams that were able to farm very efficiently, which also affected my shard income. Like, you know, I didn't push up inside clan boss as quickly as I should have, or any of those things, which sucks, because now if I want a champion like Duchess or Sifi or those sorts of things, I'm going to have to spend a lot of money to try and get it done, whereas back in the day 5 years ago when I started playing and the champion pool was a lot lower, or a lot more condensed, chances of getting those champions were a lot better. Same thing is going to happen with Watcher of Realms if it stays alive for quite some time, obviously. Like, we're seeing in the past, what, 2 months here or so, we've had like 6 or 7 heroes added at least. Like, it's crazy how many heroes we're getting added into the game, a lot of which are power creeping older heroes as well, and I hope they really don't fall prey to that. Like in the Gacha universe, something like Honkai Star Rail is probably the worst case example of power creep happening, because Honkai Star Rail, they released a good cast of characters off the start, and then they just power creep the absolute hell out of them like a year in, so that all those original characters are just not even useful anymore. We're definitely starting to see that with Raid as well. Like, a lot of the OG original best-in-class champions are just champions that are not even used anymore. So Moonton, if you're watching this, make sure you go ahead and don't power creep the absolute hell out of all your heroes in the game. That being said, I think some of their additions were good. So for example, having a Diao Chan, who is now able to do the role of a like a Dolores, right? Because Dolores had a lot of RNG to it, so the Diao Chan, who's just able to guarantee that role, essentially is fantastic, especially considering that she was a guaranteed hero. And all this talking is simply because we're not getting very good rolls on these gear. Ladies and gentlemen, we got some very disappointing stuff coming in there. I'm not really going through all the individual rolls on these, but I mean, if I get Ancients or anything like that, we'll definitely take a look. Another unknown piece here, so an unidentified fine bangle, so that's pretty exciting. Let's go ahead and sell everything else. Of course, we do have the sell files set up for this right-hand side gear as well, so we're not going to be too worried about going through each of these pieces individually. Obviously, if you needed, like, like Hell's Lament or morale pieces or something like that, you could definitely come in here and pick through it a little bit more. I will actually lock this morale piece. I do need more morale gear on my account. I don't have a whole lot of it right now. It's very useful for those heroes that, you know, can kind of get placed and you don't really need to worry too much about their gear set. So a perfect example of somebody to use in morale set would actually be a Toreador. Because I use him inside Semra, and he's not doing a whole lot of damage or anything like that, and he basically just needs attack speed, so having him inside Morale with those stats still allows everybody else to do more damage, and the damage does add up. Certainly it's what, like a 4% boost or something like that. We have an Ancient Unshaken Will with a defensive main, so let's see how that rolls. Pretty terrible roll, to be honest. That's a bit disappointing. We do have a mythic gear here, an exclusive King Hars as well, which is pretty cool. So we're going to go ahead and sell everything else. And we're down to 3,400 materials left. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm still not a fan of the drop rates inside this game. I won't lie. Very, very good piece here, though, especially if it rolls well. Let's see what we can make happen. If we can re-roll that crit rate, we might get some use out of it, certainly. But, I mean, it is what it is. Vanguard piece, I can't, or Watchguard I should say, that could be decent. Increases damage and healing effect by 8%. Could potentially use that on somebody like an Ingrid or something like that if you don't have a better piece for her. Bit disappointing though, certainly. Magmus, I have a exclusive for him now, thankfully. Lucky for me though, I don't have him, so I don't need to worry about if I'm going to use that piece or not. Let's go ahead, excuse me, let's go ahead and keep rolling. You may notice that my beautiful commentary voice is not quite the same as it usually is. Well, I have yet another head cold going on at the moment, so struggling through that. We do actually get 2 ancient pieces here. Or they're not ancients, but they're just, you know, exclusives that glow like they're ancients. Bit misleading, to be honest, but it is what it is. Look like pretty decent pieces. Not going to roll them up, though. Yet another one here. This one we will actually roll up, and it's an attack bonus. Infernal Blast. It rolls very well as well. And then during the ultimate, increases crit damage by 15 and penetration by 10 for 12 seconds. That's a very strong exclusive as well. And you know what? The Infernal Blast, I think it's the Infernals that I'm still struggling to beat the final stage of Faction Wars for. Just because it's so incredibly tough, in my opinion. I think it's Infernals. It's the ones where you basically have like the boss in the middle, and then there's like the 2 paths that kind of come down and converge. And the big guys are like unyielding until the boss is killed, and it's just a DPS check basically. But yeah, that DPS check is eating my ass, because even though regearing is free and you can move gear around as much as you want, I'm not a very big fan of doing that. We have an ancient piece here, so we're going to go ahead and roll it. A Hell's Lament ancient piece that rolls absolutely terribly. That's fantastic. Thank you for that, game. Thank you very much. Go ahead and keep rolling. We have another unidentified. We have some mythics here as well that are exclusive, so that's pretty fun. Let's go ahead and keep going. And we have a mythic. Cool stuff. Gonna keep going here. We're almost through all the materials, and then we'll have to go through and identify all those pieces that weren't identified as well. Morrigan, I did actually just pull, so getting the exclusive for her is pretty exciting. I'm very happy about that. I don't have her built out yet, but she does certainly seem to be a very interesting hero that I might use at some point. We got 4 more. So let's go ahead and just keep popping these out here. We have another mythic ring here. Nothing too crazy on that one though. I'm really only interested in rolling those on camera if they're like insane pieces or something like that. But if you're still watching this far into the video as well, I'd be very curious to hear down below from you guys how far you guys are inside the gear dungeons. So have you beaten stage 10 for those gear dungeons? Are you still trying to push up? You know, where are you at exactly? I'm at stage 8, I think it is, on gear dungeon 1. Is the highest I've been able to beat. And again, I haven't been pushing as much as I probably should have because, you know, I haven't had as much time to play the game as I would have liked. But let me know. Very curious to hear about that. Okay, we get a variant Light's Grace weapon. So Witch's Charm, dealing single target damage with basic attack, has a 2% chance of transforming the target into a critter, making them unable to attack for 5 seconds. This effect doesn't apply to elites or bosses and can be triggered up to 1 time every 20 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Polymorph if you play Raid Shadow Legends. So pretty alright. This is Light's Grace though, so it's a healing effect and a rage regen, which means that you're probably not going to really be using it on any sort of a damage dealing hero, right? Which makes it a bit of a shame, but I mean, it is what it is. Go ahead and identify the Invigoration Bangle. That's pretty nice. Defense plus 2%, HP plus 2%. That is absolutely atrocious. And then let's go ahead and do the Arrogance's Amulet. So Rapidity, that's actually really good. So we have attack main stat, attack speed, crit rate on the substats. It's Cataclysm, obviously, so it's a very good set. And then we have the Hellfire cost minus 100 because it's exclusive for him. And then we have an attack plus 2% and an attack speed plus 10. So let's go ahead and let's go to our Arrogance, actually, and see if I can get that to roll well. If it does, I may actually have to rework my Arrogance into a Cataclysm set. So let's go ahead and do this. This one? Or am I crazy? Yes, it was this one. So let's go ahead and roll this up here. See what we can get. Why are we not doing Quick Enhance? I am confused. There we go. It rolls okay. We get like purple crit rate. I mean, that gives him a lot more attack, less crit damage, obviously. It looked like we had some exclusive gear for him from other sections as well. So he can get Nightmare Council here. So actually, we could probably put together a pretty decent build for him. We don't have exclusive over here. Do we have just regular Cataclysm? We do. We have a few good Cataclysm pieces, actually. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. So I may actually switch him around, see if we can get him built out. So every time he lands a crit hit, he's going to increase his damage for 5 seconds by 10%, which is pretty crazy. Especially considering that, like, during his ultimate, he gets an attack speed bonus. And then I think he also... sorry. In normal stance, 30% chance to increase his attack speed. So that's not his ultimate, it's his talent. He's got a confusing kit to some extent. But yeah, we could get this cost down to a 650 instead of a 750 on an automatically cycling ultimate, which would be pretty crazy, because Arrogance still definitely is one of the best, you know, boss killing units in the game, which is crazy. He hasn't been power crept insanely hard, but I mean, we obviously have Kagiri and Sun Wukong now who just do it better, so something to consider there. But and I also did get Talon, by the way, in case you guys didn't see that. So I made a summoning video about her where I pulled like 300 shards. I didn't get her, and then I just happened to pull her on a different banner like in the past week. So all that being said, though, if you've stuck around for roughly 14 minutes of me pulling gear and identifying gear pieces, thank you so much. There is a subscribe and a join button down below if you want to support the channel. The support that I've been receiving is absolutely immense on this channel. Thank you guys all so much, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.